lot of people, I mean, if you watch the show a lot, you know that Richard and I aren't necessarily big fans of mechanical filtration. I can speak for myself in saying that because you've trapped a particle, that doesn't mean it's not still sitting in the water degrading. So you haven't really done anything. But that is also, even though I'm not a giant fan of roller mats, that's how I understand that if someone pointed a water pistol at my head and said, use mechanical filtration, I would say, fine, a roller mat, because that's the only thing that actually pulls it out of the water, and then the degradation stops right there. Now, and I want to say a caveat too, because I'm okay with mechanical filtration myself in the first like year, of a baby reef when you're trying to get it all together. I'm somewhat of a fan of doing that. More so, but then I have a lot of clients I've had for a long time, and I pretty much just, well, let me show you. So like, if you're going old school, like I still will use, there was the old filter sock, like this sucker here, felt, I guess they call it felt filter sock.
Yeah.
Well, many years ago, and actually it was after going to Richard's place and talking to him about mechanical filtration that flipped me, is then I started using these, and I use these a lot. And as you can see, it's just mesh. I don't know the micron. I think maybe it's 100 micron.
It's
or
much
200
big,
micron.
much big. I think it's much bigger.
Okay, like maybe 400 micron. I
And
think.
what are you trying to accomplish with that?
This gets away, like all I'm trying to do is, because if I had already designed a system where it's just a pipe coming in from the drain, I still want to protect anything that could be going through that pipe, a fish, a snail, a whatever. I want to stop it from going and possibly getting stuck into my into the pump, and maybe like a minor amount of mechanical filtration. But then again, you got to understand, my whole problem with mechanical filtration is, so you have caught a particle, it is still being flushed with water and still degrading and still affecting your water quality. So filtration wise, it's not doing that much for you. But my beef is this. So I mostly moved to this.
To the mesh one.
Yeah.
And let me translate from Martian or into Martian. The mesh one is there to just catch anything big that comes through, so it doesn't go into the sump and get lost or get sucked into the pump.
Actually, to be honest with you too, it cuts down on micro bubbles from the drain a bit.
And it slows bubbles down. Yeah.
I'll also use it. I don't do it with carbon because carbon is very frangible, but I'll sometimes put things like Chemipure or polyfilter or some types of filtrations where it's a good thing, to let the water all flow through it.
Friable.
What did I say? Frangible?
Yeah.
Friable. I do have a couple systems, a handful of systems. I still have these out there just because they've just proven to be a little bit messier tanks for whatever. I have had this beef for a really long time, but I sort of keep this. I've kept this to myself. Go ahead.
I'm just going to tell you I'm a dick, because frangible is a fine word to use for that too.
Is it?
Yeah.
I've had this beef for a very long time because I've been using these since the 90s, and as I said, I've pretty much walked away from them. But I have never understood, because people throw these in their washing machine, and then they, sometimes they get into a argument with their wife or husband about, why you putting these dirty, nasty things in a washing machine, and and they'll put bleach in there. And I've always thought that was not a great idea. And as a maintenance guy, I take these off right away, and I carry this short length of hose with me, this 5-foot hose with a pressure nozzle on it, and I'll go on the side of a client's house and I will just blast these. I even do that with these as well.
Yeah.
Just to sort of blast them clean on site. You leave it right side in, one side, flip it, other side, flip it. Okay, then turn it inside out, blah, blah, blah. And because you would see people bitching and moaning all the time about cleaning these. And I've never understood why people, pile them up and then throw them into the washing machine. I always thought about like residue from soap, residue from bleach. I get it, because I get a couple points, because one guy told me that lived way up north. He said, when it's, there's a 5 feet of snow on the ground, you can't take it outside and blast it. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, but I also think if you're living in a place where you got 5 feet of snow on the ground, you probably have a garage with a utility sink.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe not.
Maybe not.
I'm with you. It always seemed like it was so much easier to spray it out real quick and put it back than like to swap it out, to have 30 socks that you just let get dry and crusty until you get to the washing machine and then toss them in.
I'm going to tell you this, and it applies to that little filter that we often recommend as well, that Marineland filter.
I've got that running on my pond right now.
When you get it dirty, when you get this dirty, when you get that filter dirty, you do not set it to the side. You clean it right away. I've had clients before. Now, normally my clients don't mess with things, but I've had clients before that get a little involved and ask me because they want to fiddle with the tank. So I would have them swap these out in between when I was there. Well, they'd throw them in the garage. And man, if this thing gets dried out, and I've experienced this with that Marineland filter as well, if it's still wet and fresh, you can blast crap right off of it. When that stuff dries, I don't know chemically what's going on, but it becomes a nightmare to get clean.
It just binds up and turns into like cementish stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I turned mine off this morning and didn't feel like cleaning it. So I left it in place. Because
Richard, that's another thing though. If you keep it wet, it's okay. It's when you dry it out.
Right. Well, I'm saying that's exactly why I left it wet. I was like, I'll get to it. But if I let it dry out, then I'm buying a new filter.
Yeah.
Those pleated cartridges, even the socks you're talking about, the water pressure can degrade them a little bit. So over time, you're going to get a little bit less filtration, but I don't find that much of a big deal.
They do that kind of thing.
That's a good beef, man. I like that.
But, and that's a funny thing, whether you and I, that you and I don't really like these anymore, but I got news for you. They're ubiquitous.
Yeah, I did a consult with Shed Aquarium this week. They're gonna do some spawning stuff, and we came up with mechanical filtration, and we talked about it for a little while because I was like, no, and we went through it all. I was like, shit's just rotting. I didn't say shit because it was a consult. I said stuff's just rotting in the sock. I'd rather have it rotting near something that's going to eat it, or
the skimmer can pull it out, or
that was good.
I like again it. So you trapped a particle. What now? It's still screwing up your water quality.